Matt, how would someone else introduce you?
I think they would introduce me as a successful entrepreneur. I've been in business for the last 17 years. I built over 25 businesses and generated hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think they would associate personal development with my name and always, I guess, reinventing myself to try and be the best version of myself. Every year, I change pretty much.
What's unique about you and about your business? How are you different and how is your business different than the others?
It's a good question. I think I'm going to lean on the fact of how my leadership style is different and how my business philosophy is different, because I have a number of different businesses and within each of them there's probably different uniquenesses. So I think a lot of people today get stuck in working in the business and they don't work on it, right? There's different levels to this. And at the first stage, I used to do the same thing. I would hire people and I would tell them what to do and I would micromanage them. Then my second lesson was, no, I need to hire people so they can tell me what to do. And now at the final stage, I've come to realize that I need to hire people and then coach them so they could be the best version of themselves.
You are coaching them on your own, or you have some teammates doing that as well?
No, I'm coaching them on my own.
Okay.
I think that's fundamentally my job as a leader, is to hire the right people, make sure there's money in the bank, and get out of the way. And what I've come to realize is that I work for them. My job is to give them a container where their dreams and goals can live in. And the company can be big enough so they can continue to, push their goals and dreams and they can live inside the company. And I have to be a better leader in terms of really trying to form them into the best person they could be, whether it's their mindset, their health, their fitness. That's where I can assist to them as a leader. And if, as a byproduct, if I improve them as people, then they'll grow the companies. And I also have the system in place where a large percentage of the profit of all the company goes to the leadership team to keep them motivated and incentivized.
So you're team oriented. If you have a good team, they will build a good company and they will be also good people themselves and create better families and everything.
Exactly. So I believe in that you build the people to build the business, right? That's fundamentally what I do.
Okay. Matt, what would you say has been the most effective business strategy you had so far? Because you are young and you really grew up very big for your age. What was the strategy? How did you do it?
It's probably not what people expect, but I think what I've come to learn is that if you focus on you, the money will come to you. And the number one business strategy you can develop...
What does that mean? Sorry.
Yeah, so the number one business strategy you can develop is personal development. I think we get so fixated on the how, the strategy, the tactics, where we fail to realize that if we focus on developing the person, the how will come. And when I really learned this, in the first 15 years, I didn't really learn this, only the last couple of years, when I decided to take business seriously. I thought to myself that, what does it mean to treat business like a sport? What happens if I was like a professional athlete, but a businessman? How do their lives look like? They have a mindset coach. They have a nutritional coach. They have time for self-care. They reflect. They don't go out and party. So I never really took business seriously. I never went pro. And what would my life look like, what my business look like if for 1 year I said, you know what, I'm saying no to everything else. I'm doing what I call a reverse gap year. And I'm just focusing on my goals, myself, to be the best version I can as a human, and how they impact my business. How the decisions that I make change. How would I lead people differently? And that's when I realized in that 1 year, I grew a business from 15 to $45 million in revenue. I created my dream body. I bought a Lambo. I bought a penthouse. I started my personal brand and met my dream wife. All in the space of a year.
When you started to work
on myself,
on yourself,
not the business, right? Because, one probably we'll touch on later, I do believe that the world focuses around energy, vibration, and frequency. And when I was able to remove the vices, focus on myself, and create the person that I would...
Can you repeat? Everything works on energy?
Energy, vibration, and frequency. The world operates based on that.
Okay.
And once I started creating the person that I would admire, the person that I would look up to, the person that I would listen to, that's when I started operating from a higher frequency. That's when I started attracting the success into my life. And a lot of the time, frequency outweighs effort. Back in the past, I was just working 12 hours a day, hustling, pushing myself.
Is it the manifestation? Does it have something to do with manifestation theories and stuff like that?
Correct, yeah. I think that if you look at Dr. David Hawkins has this, anyone can Google it, it's like a vibrational energy chart. And you can see the different emotions attract different vibration energy frequencies. At the top is love, peace, etc., acceptance.
And you can attract success.
You can attract success, literally.
And the good relationship and the good woman, everything.
Everything into your life.
When you're in the right vibrational state, let's say, right?
Exactly right. And that's where that concept of frequency outweighs effort.
Where did you first heard about it?
Yeah, I think the first time I heard about it, it was probably a number of years ago, but the first time I really took it on when I hired a coach called Wes Watson. Now, Wes Watson, for anyone to look him up, he's a big, tattered, bald guy who was in jail for 10 years, and he really changed his life via this kind of philosophy. And he's one of the most successful coaches in the world. I hired him to work one-on-one with him in terms of developing my mindset. And
how long have you two been working together?
About a year now. About a year now,
okay.
yeah. And he's the one that really opened my eyes in terms of how the world works and focusing on frequency and energy and vibration. And that really dictated, my actions.
Can you share at least 1-2 wisdoms for the audience?
Definitely. So, conscience congruent living turns confusion into clarity.
Okay.
Meaning that part of my life as well, I was confused about the way, how should I live life, Should I have balance? Should I be partying a bit, working a bit? Should I be spending 5 holidays a year or 2 holidays a year? How many business should I have? How much money should I make? And I was looking outside for the answers when really the answers are within me. So I'm a fundamental believer that we co-create our reality based on the things that we admire. And your conscience is the authentic voice of God. And that's like the greatest personal development tool that you ever have. Because your God knows your desires, and their conscience is reminding you of the person you need to be in order to attract the things in your life that you want. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned from him, was to live incongruent with my conscience and use regret as my guideline.
What's the biggest challenge you faced in your career?
I think it was when I was about 26 years old. I woke up one morning and literally overnight, I lost pretty much everything. I lost $5 million overnight. And it wasn't based on something that I did. It was a $1 billion retailer, one of my biggest clients, went bust overnight. And it was at that point that I really had to reinvent my whole business strategy. So at the time, my business strategy was develop brands and sell them to mass retailers around the world. But then I was heavily reliant on them, and I was vulnerable because my business was based on their business. And then from that day, I had to really take all my brands, learn digital marketing, and learn how to go direct to consumer. So I was never vulnerable on the retailers again. And I really had to almost start from the ground up and learn a whole new set of skills, develop a whole new team just to really tackle the direct-to-consumer market rather than going to retailers. How
was this emotionally? How did that emotionally hit you? Was it taxing on your emotions? Were you stressed? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think no one around me noticed that it happened because I found out earlier before I went on the news, and everyone was surprised how well I dealt with it. And to be honest, for the first hour, I was shocked. I was broken. I invested everything I had into that business for like 7 years. And I never really took money out because it was a business where I just kept reinvesting my money. And I remember I was walking in the park one day and I'm thinking, if I continue this victim mentality, why me? How did this happen? I'm not going to get through this. And I started to think about what story can I engineer to get myself out of this? Because I'm a big believer of that. You can't control what you look at, but you can control what you see.
Your perspective.
Yeah. So how can I turn this perspective to work for me?
It's a stoic philosophy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then at the time I thought that, who else has had these big setbacks? How did their life end up as entrepreneurs? How did their journey end up? And I started thinking that every single really successful person had a massive failure, who almost went bankrupt. Donald Trump went bankrupt. Everyone almost went bankrupt at some point.
That's how you learn.
Exactly.
After all, if you don't dive in and if you don't take risks, I think rarely someone is, he dive in, it's a first business and it's a super massive success. I think when you take the average of very, very successful people, you will see that most of them failed one or most probably more than once, more times, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's the way I reframed it in my mind. I'm like, because this event happened, now I know I will be successful because I needed that in my life. Now I've ticked that off. Box checked, almost went bankrupt. Next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of reframe really helped me. And after about an hour or so, I kept firing and wiring that narrative in my mind, and then I was okay.
Okay, Matt, how does a typical day looks like to you? What are you doing during the typical day?
Sure. And I think for people listening, you have to understand that don't ever compare your level 100, someone's level 100 with your level 1. What I'm doing today is not what I did when I first started.
You have to level up, right?
Yeah, and not just that, when I first started, I made my first $1 million without reading, without
How
getting
old were you?
23 or 24.
How did you spend it?
More stock.
Stock.
Yeah, stock and
so
new
it wasn't
businesses.
a Ferrari, Lambo,
Nothing,
or
none
something.
of that stuff. None of that stuff. Boring.
Okay.
But I did all that without reading, without a morning routine, without journaling, without meditating. I did without having an ice bath. I just sold more things.
When did you wake up before? When you earned your first million at that part of your life? What was your wake up time?
I think it was still fairly like 6 a.m. or something like that, you know. But what I'm trying to say is whatever I do today, it's not what I did back then. All I did was I sold stuff for more than it cost for me to make. That's it, over and over again, in reality.
Do you think that your first success was very lucky, or you would say you did it like proper way, or it's the blend of the both?
I mean, I've had 25 different businesses in the last 15 years, so I don't think there's any luck about it. I think that after business 6, that was the first time I felt comfortable, and what
was business 6?
I can't even remember. But I remember
just,
the business,
just the number.
Just the number. I remember 6 stands out for me. Yeah. And I remember like the 6th time I was starting a business, it was like, now I feel comfortable that no matter what happens, I'm going to be able to work it out, right? Okay. But until then, you know, there was nothing certain about what I was doing.
So what I want us to talk about more is your relationship with the time management. We mentioned it a little bit now, but can you give us a brief? How did it all started? Because right now you're a man of schedule, right?
Yep.
You are really following schedule, and you're a man of routines. How is your relationship with that right now?
One thing I've come to learn is that focus is the biggest leverage that you can have against anyone else in this marketplace. So when we look at a formula, you have your time multiplied by your focus equals your production per unit. Mm-hmm. And anyone can sit there and work for 10 hours, but how much of that work is focused? If I can 2x my focus over someone else...
Or is it like time blocking or something?
Just in general. Focus can be in terms of like how focused you are in doing the one thing at one time. And then also what is the one thing that you're choosing to do? There's 2 different types of those focus, right? Mm-hmm. Selecting the topic that you're going to focus on and then actually executing on that topic. Mm-hmm. And I think that once you hyper obsess over what actions are you doing, and the question you ask yourself is that, what's the one thing that I can do that'll make everything else easier or irrelevant? Mm-hmm. That I ask myself on a daily basis. And then once I decide to do that one thing, I set my day into 2 different blocks. First is maker time, where I push forward on those big tasks that are going to make me the incremental gains. And then the second half of the day is maintenance tasks, whether it's meeting, emails, messages, and the like of that. Because that's what's most important. The maker time is what's going to push the business forward. The maintenance time is just going to keep the business where it is.
And do you have a specific time during the day when you are dealing with your schedule, or is that time planned as well, or you're like doing it spontaneously? Okay, now I have to plan this, I have to plan this, or you have like, I don't know, 8:30 a.m. is the planning time. I plan the day, I plan my to-do list. And
if you saw my calendar, like hour by hour, everything's blocked out from when I go to the gym, from when I wake up, when I do my ice bath, when I eat, everything is completely scheduled.
And when do you plan? The whole, when do you plan is also planned?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Normally it's a Sunday evenings for the whole week, okay. or it's the night before if things have changed.
You're doing it all by yourself. You don't have anyone helping you with that.
No.
How has mentorship influenced you? You talked that you have one life coach. Do you have some others? And how did that influence you in your life?
I've spent over $500,000 easily on coaching throughout my whole life, and it's probably the biggest leverage move that I've made.
500,000.
Yeah,
wow, that's a lot.
Easily, probably more. And it's probably the biggest leverage move that I've made, because essentially, and this is what I deem luxury, right? Luxury is not buying a Lamborghini. Luxury is not buying a penthouse. Luxury is about to sit one-on-one with a human that has done what you're looking to do and learn from all his past mistakes and failures, because you're paying for his past, essentially, in coaching. So coaching is the biggest acceleration method that you could use in your life in order to get to where you want to go to, by far.
But can I ask you one question about it? I mean, I was thinking about it. Who I would like personally to have for the life coach is like somebody who is very successful, like Elon Musk or somebody, but they are not life coaching. Do these life coaches, they're not maybe successful entrepreneurs, they're primarily life coaches. Can they teach you how to become a successful entrepreneur if they didn't do it themselves?
No, they can't. And this is why it's very important who to take advice from and who to choose as a coach. And I made the mistake a lot of times. Now, I don't like the terminology life coach. I don't hire life coaches. I hire coaches in specific domains in terms of what I'm looking to achieve. As an example, I have an e-commerce coach who has built a $100 million e-commerce business, and I want to build a $100 million e-com business. I have a mindset coach because I want to instill his mindset, the way he views the world and his discipline, etc. I have a leadership coach because I like the way he leads his team. I have a content coach because I like the content he's creating and his philosophy around content. So I have coaches of different spectrums of what I'm looking to develop in my life.
Which one is the most important to you, or they're like equal? Or one day this, one day another, maybe?
Yeah, I think they're all equally important because they all serve part of my vision of the person that I'm trying to create. So they're all equally as important because one I need without the other.
How would you go about finding the coach? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so first of all, I look at your life in terms of the goals you have. For example, I would always look for someone that's 1 or 2 steps ahead of you only. That's all you need in terms of a coach. And that's the only one that's probably relevant to you. As an example, if you're looking to build a podcast business to 10,000 subscribers, go find someone who's built a podcast business up to 10,000 subscribers and ask him to coach. Because also, there's no point you going to ask someone who's up to 1 million subscribers or 2 million, because first of all, the price range for them, their time is going to be out of your budget, most probably. And it's probably not as relevant because when they went from 0 to 10,000, it was 5 years ago, and the strategies are changed today. So getting a coach, all you need to do is find someone that's a couple steps ahead of you and asking them to speak to you one-on-one, no matter what it is, if it's health or fitness, if it's mindset, business, whatever it is.
And who would you say today? I know Tony Robbins and guys like him, but who is like best in the business? Who would you say? Which life coach? If you can choose one for the rest of your life, who would it be?
It's a good question. And I wouldn't even know how to answer that, to be honest. If I told you an answer, it'd probably change as soon as I got out of here.
Okay.
But people like Tony Robbins probably, and for one reason, his network. And this is something you have to consider as well.
But does he provide his network?
Of course.
When you're coaching?
When you're paying someone, like Tony Robbins is $1 million a day or something.
Really?
Yeah, if you pay Tony Robbins $1 million a day.
People pay that.
100%. Because
let's become Tony Robbins, yeah.
But you have to think about it, right? So you charge for your value, you don't charge for your time. When Tony Robbins charges someone $1 million a year, that person's worth $1 billion, or he's worth $100 million. And if he improves his life by 10%, that's worth $10 million to him. When he improves our life by 10%, it's not worth $10 million. So that's why when you charge for the value, it makes sense.
So $1 million and $1 million and how much time does he spend with you in one day?
I believe it's, I'm not sure.
1 hour or no?
More? No, I think it's more. I think it's like a day with him, in-person day. I believe it's $1 million.
Wow, that guy, you can say that's success. That's financial success.
That's next
for
level.
Sure.
And bear in mind, like, once again, a lot of the people pay him because of the network as well. Do you know what I mean? The people that he knows, people he can introduce you to, that's part of the coaching. That's part of the package, I guess.
And with all that you said, life coaches, how would you say your life view changed over time? What is your view of life right now? For example, compared to 10 years ago, how did you change as a person?
I'm more conscious than ever that we are the creators of our own reality. Our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings shape our reality. The world isn't as it is as you are. Your inner world literally creates your outer world. And when we spoke about before, the world operates in energy, vibration, and frequency. And then when you get these two philosophies together, then you become more conscious of the unconscious thoughts. Because now you're worried about, well, not worried, but like if I have a thought that's a negative thought, I understand there's certain energy attached to that. I understand that's going to reflect in my outer world, so I don't let that in. When I engage in activities like eating shit food and I feel guilty after, I understand that's going to reflect in my outer world. So then all of a sudden, it starts to shape all your decisions that you make during the day. And you're so conscious of being positive, thinking about the end in mind, living in the end in mind, having the law of assumption, feeling like the thing you desire, feeling it in the moment now, because that is the same energy and frequency that'll be able to attract what I want into my life. And that's probably the biggest game changer for me.
So basically, everything you consume, whether it's the diet, the thoughts, people you hang out with, what you read, affects you on a deep level, right?
100%.
It's like you are what you eat.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's two types of, like, I have this term called the consciousness diet that I help people with.
Consciousness diet.
The consciousness diet.
I like this term, yeah.
So it's two different things, right? You have the mindfulness conscious, like the thoughts that's coming into your mind, right? And what are you allowing into your diet? And then you have the external, the information you absorb, which is also part of the consciousness diet. So if you really audit those two, what information are you taking in? You're listening to the news where it's all negative. You're listening to certain people complain, have victim mentalities.
Or you complain yourself.
Or you complain yourself, right? So that's very critical. What's your consciousness diet like? Because your consciousness diet will literally reflect what your reality will be, because our life is literally the images and thoughts that we express. That's it.
So do you think like, do you think that somebody who has like some chronic mental illness or something like that can literally heal only with the power of his own mind and with the power of belief?
1000%. And I think Dr. Bruce Lipton is a big believer of this. He wrote a book called Biology of Belief. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza is actually proving this.
Sorry, there is actually, when you said Dispenza, one funny story. I mean, it's not funny story, but there is one very cool story about the power of the mind. There was this guy who was diagnosed a cancer. Mm-hmm. It's not a funny story. I apologize. He was diagnosed a cancer, and he died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years after that, he died. And when they did the autopsy on him, he didn't have cancer at all. He died because he thought he has cancer. This is how powerful the mind is.
And what was this from?
From Dispenza.
Okay.
I think it was in Placebo is You. His
oh,
book.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he literally died because they told him he has cancer, but
That's
he didn't
insane.
have cancer.
Insane.
Yeah, that's how powerful the mind is. So I also think I personally think we can change a lot by changing our belief system and our mind, but there is the limit. I don't think we can go like black and white, but there is a very, very good magnitude and altitude we can go with our mind.
I mean, when it comes to these philosophies on how to live life, I always run it through a filter, right? Mm-hmm. Stories are the operating system of the mind. And when we choose what stories to believe, then we have to think about, will this story help us improve the quality of our life, which is everyone's ideal, right? Or will it not improve the quality of your life? And when we have this belief that we create our own reality and then our thoughts can make us sick, but the thoughts can make us better, then having that belief, will that help us live a better quality life? I think for sure. It can't not. Well, thinking positive all the time and not hanging around negative people, like it's a perfect formula, you know what I mean? So whether it's true or not, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna live a better life if you believe that. Same as religion or God, people have faith. Whether it's true or not, people have that anchor and they feel better by believing there's something higher than them. So who cares if it's true?
It definitely adds to the better. It can add to the worse.
Yeah, exactly right.
Definitely. And when you say consciousness diet, how to give us some tip or some example how you do it? How to organize your thoughts? When to think positively, and how do you do it? Like, you have a time when you say what you're grateful for. What is your knowledge and experience? How to reprogram your mindset and how to install good and positive thinking inside your mind without like over-analyzing or overdoing it?
That's probably an easy question to answer. You have to believe that you are the creator of your own reality first.
Okay.
If you don't believe that fundamental concept, then you're not going to...
But how to start believing in that? From the bottom of your being, with affirmations, or what do you have to do? You just say to yourself, I believe that I'm the creator of my own reality, or there are some, it just has to...
I mean, first, like anything, like you have to study it, right? You have to study it, implement it, validate it, and then test it on yourself.
Okay.
Like anything, you have to study it, like anything you want to learn. But I think that it's the same with food. Now, if you believe that food is going to dictate the way you feel and how healthy your energy is, you're going to be more conscious of that. You know what I mean? You're thinking about the food you're putting in your body. But if you believe that all food is exactly the same, I can eat whatever I want, then you're not going to think about it. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important. That's why it's also important to understand how nutrition works on the body. The better understanding you have of how nutrition works, like, what protein, carbs, and fats do in your body, then all of a sudden when you look at a piece of food, you're not looking at just food anymore. You're looking at how it changes in your body. Same thing when you understand how consciousness works and you read about how you're the creator of your reality. Right?
This topic is very interesting. Yeah. I think there is so much to get from that, and people are stuck today, and most of them don't know why. And I think if they would implement this consciousness diet strategy into their life and start working on it, their life would drastically improve. And I think in a short time, not in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you really think about it, we're a set of programs and beliefs. So 95% of our thoughts are from the day before. And from the thoughts from the day before, if we don't change, we can't think greater than how we feel. And we keep seeing the same thoughts, the same beliefs, and the same, I guess, personality. It's going to create the same personal reality. You know what I mean? So we have to think greater than how we feel in order to create a new program and to live outside of our current self.
So basically what you're saying is you can be the same. You can be the new person if you have the same thoughts you had.
Yeah.
Like every day, you need to change your thought patterns, and you are becoming the new person, right?
Yeah. Your personality creates your personal reality. So you can't expect to find a solution from where the problem was created. And this is what people do. They want their life to change, but they don't want to change. So how do you expect your life to change when
you want to stay the same?
Yeah, same. The problem's created in this belief system that you've created, in this thought process you've created, and then you want to change. It's impossible. You need to create a new personality so you can create a new personal reality.
Okay, Matt, how do you personally define happiness? What is happiness for you?
I think people today feel lost and confused, and that creates a certain unknownness about their life, which causes them not to be happy. So for me, inner peace is happiness, knowing that I am where I am today. I'm doing exactly what I know I should be doing with who I'm doing it with, and I'm not thinking about the past. I'm not worrying about the future. That to me is inner peace. And I'm living in the moment, being present, and I'm going from activity to activity that's giving me energy and not sucking energy away from me. That to me is happiness.
Also like we spoke before, like some kind of diet, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I am personally a believer that if you are also not happy right now, in the moment, whatever happens to you, you will probably also not be happy. But if you are, however, happy right now and in this moment, anything you achieve, whether it's business-wise, money-wise, family-wise, it will just add extra to this happiness. But I think we should all be happy, maybe not all the time, but generally we should be happy beings, and everything that comes will just add to this happiness. This is, I think, the proper approach, because many people are saying they're not happy and stuff, but I think it all comes from inside. They all have the potential and the capacity to be happy at this moment.
I mean, happiness is a funny thing because people think that everyone deserves to be happy, but I don't believe so. Why? Does everyone deserve to be a millionaire? And where does happiness fit on the spectrum? Would you rather be happy than a millionaire? Yes. So if everyone doesn't deserve to be a millionaire, why do you think everyone deserves to be happy? Happiness takes work. It takes effort. Do you know what I mean? And I think people just they want to be a passenger in life and just expect to be happy. No, if you do the work, you can be happy. You can have peace and fulfillment.
What adds the most to happiness by you? Is it discipline, putting in the work, being very productive? Because I personally think that if you are too passive, at least that's for me, I'm not happy. I can't just be in the sun and have fun all the day. Something needs to be happening. I need to be active in order for this happiness to kick in, this fulfillment. Is it the same with you, or like?
1000%. And I validated this from my own experience. You know, I made a lot of money, and at 29, I said, I'm not going to work for 3 years. And I stopped working. I jumped out of planes, got my skydiving license. I partied a lot. Then I went back to, maybe I should work a bit and party a bit and skydive a bit. And then ultimately, I've come to the realization that if I'm not progressing as a human, I'm not happy. As happy as I could be. That's what I fundamentally need in my life. I need to grow and I need to give, because I fundamentally live for other people as well, be able to provide for other people. So if I can't grow myself and I can't give, then I'm not at my best self.
So basically, temporary pleasures like partying and stuff like that, this is not something for the long-term and stable happiness, right?
Yeah, for me, it's not. Where, look, I know others who potentially it's part of their life. You know, that's why you have to follow your conscience. I know people that are some of the world's best musicians, and they have that in their repertoire because that's just part of their social scene and social life, and they can't imagine not partying, and they're very different. And I think it doesn't play on their conscience. They don't think that I should party less. They love it. Where for me it was like, no, I shouldn't be partying because it's affecting my personal growth. It's affecting the way I can give back to the people that I love. So I had to stop for me.
But I personally think that you said like for the famous people who are partying, I think most of them, if not all, deep down, maybe they say, oh, I like this kind of life and stuff. But I think deep down, if you ask them, do they want that in the life? The answer would be no. If they can sign a paper for that kind of life, party life to stop, I think most of them, if not all, would do it immediately.
Do you know what I believe? I believe that people from the age of 15 have not stopped partying or not stopped alcohol for
50.
their whole life. Say 15, whenever you start drinking 16. And they've created a reality where they don't know the opposite. They don't understand what they're giving up on. So for them, it makes sense not to stop, you know what I mean? But if they took a year off and stopped all the vices and understood what they were giving up, it'd be very hard for them to go back to partying. But until you create that delta, it's a massive blind spot for you, as it was for me. And then until I took that year off, did that reverse gap year, and I saw how much extra fulfillment, gratitude, love I had for life and all the things I was doing, I was like, the partying is not worth it. But unless I did that, I didn't understand the other side of the coin.
Yeah, it's amazing how much a person can change, not in 5 years, but in 3 months with the proper time management and proper strategies. I think in 3 months, you can become the whole new person. And in 1 year, if you put the proper time and energy, if you invest time properly and put energy into proper things, I think in 1 year, you can be like completely changed, new person.
1,000,000%. And my life's testament to that. Like, you can change your life in 1 year by saying no to everything else, focusing on one goal, removing all the vices. You can change literally your whole life in 1 year.
So basically, it's super simple. You have to define what you want.
Correct.
What is your goal? And you just do it.
That's
Be
it.
disciplined about it and go to it.
And I've convinced a lot of people to do this reverse gap year now. And the way I sell them on the concept is that you're not going to, if you look at, and I constantly use this frame, what would 80-year-old Matt say, right? Because I don't want to live, you have to choose your regrets in life. And I'm thinking, what regrets do I want to choose? Would he ever say that, fuck, I wish I partied that 1 year? I wish I took more drugs that year. I wish I drank more that 1 year. No. Or would he regret saying, hey, I wish I took 1 year off just to see what the best version of myself would be, what I could achieve in that 1 year? No one ever will regret not drinking for 1 year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Based on what you said, there is one good thing I've heard it from Chris Williamson podcast. He say, do you know what is true hell? The true hell is when the person you are now meets the best version of yourself. What would you ask this person? How would you feel compared to this person? And I think whenever partying, too much of partying and stuff is involved, you are being you are creating the gap between the best version of yourself. I think the best version of yourself is exactly as you said. I'm growing, I'm focused on growth, and that's pretty much the most of my life. I'm growing business-wise, consciousness-wise, family-wise, and others.
And I think these vices are like silent assassins. I think we don't realize what it has an effect on us, because emotionally I was fine every time I partied. But what I was missing out on, my decision-making skills weren't the same, the confidence in myself, my thought patterns weren't the same. And that's why when I removed everything, I'm like, Jesus Christ, no wonder I made so many bad decisions in business. No wonder I didn't have the confidence to start my own brand. And when I did this, you can't connect the dots looking forward. It's always looking back. And you just don't realize all of these things.
Yeah, it's basically what you put energy in, it will grow. If you put 5 hours of energy into some bad stuff, bad thing, in 5 years, this bad thing, this bad stuff, you'll be great at this bad thing. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
If you put 5 hours of energy into, I don't know, playing drums, in 5 years you will be great at playing drums. So basically, what we need, all of us, what is needed is to properly wield with this energy. Where do we focus, channel this energy to? This is what will grow. So if you channel this energy on growth, you will simply see yourself growing over time. It's a simple equation, actually.
Yeah, it's very simple. I just think our environment makes it extremely hard. From the food to the drugs to the alcohol to the Netflix, like it's all sucking our frequency.
What do you think about social networks? How do you?
I mean, it's a tool. It can be the best thing for you. It can be the worst thing for you, depending on how you use everything. A knife can kill someone. The knife can also cut your steak. That creates an amazing meal.
What is the good here? Killing
or? I mean, so example for my social media, I do not follow anyone that doesn't provide value in my life. I'll follow my friends, but I'd mute their stories. I'd mute their posts. So if I ever go into my social media account, it's narratives and information that I want to absorb to better myself. And I think you have to cultivate your environment. That's part of the consciousness diet. What are you allowing into your mind?
Okay, Matt, last question. If you could talk to any human figure, it can be alive or historical, who would that be and why?
There's a couple that comes to mind. Number one is Neville Goddard. He's one of the OGs in terms of manifestation and talking about how your inner world shapes your outer world. But then currently probably Dr. Joe Dispenza. Just because he's actively taking teachings from, say, Neville Goddard and a lot of people in the past, but combining with science. And he's transforming the lives of tens and thousands, 100,000 people every single year, and he's proving that with science. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have as to what he's learning and what tools is he using in order to amplify your reality creation.
Would you like to go to some of his
I'm going
retreat?
in March.
Yeah, I'm going too, but probably in December. Yeah.
Which next December?
This December.
How do you get tickets?
Online, but before.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah. In Cancun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza is amazing. I would also like to speak with him a lot. And did you read his books also? Or?
No, that's too much for me. I listen to the podcast.
Listen to his podcast. Yeah. Who else? Anybody else popping on your mind?
That's it. I think that really the topic that fascinates me is how we create our own reality. And I think anyone that has that kind of philosophy, that's more spiritual than actual, you know.
So what is good about Dispenza? He puts science.
Yeah.
He scientifically explains spirituality.
Correct, yeah.
He scientifically explains mysticism. I think that's what's very strong and powerful 100%. About him, yeah.
And I think what we discussed before, you asked me, how do we get someone to incorporate this and believe this in their life? And I said they have to understand it first. And he does a great job of breaking it down into language where people can understand it. So then if they understand it, they will implement it. And I went to one of his seminars in Australia, and he gets everyone in the audience to teach what he's teaching to the person next to you. Because if you can teach the person next to you, you'll believe him more, and then you instill it into your life. And I think that's why he's so transformational, because he understands that concept, and he gets everyone else to understand as well as, not as well as he does, but to the point where they will implement it in their lives.
Matt, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll meet again and
I'm sure
be in the podcast or somewhere else again.
I'm sure we will. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was great.